it's funny, I turned my phone off a second ago, thinking that was courteous, and now I'm turning it back on. So it'll be a second. Oh, great. Oh my gosh, wow. Phones, turns out we all have these. Awesome. I'm Isabel. It's my honor to introduce Rebecca, who I haven't been able to read much of your work because I'm doing the poetry thing in our program mostly. So here she is. Rebecca Kilroy is a fiction writer from New Jersey. Her work has appeared in The Forge, Tramp Set, Orange's Journal, and others, and is forthcoming in Cult magazine. She was a finalist for the 2024 Iowa Review Awards in Fiction, the Pinch Literary Awards, and the Disquiet Prize. Please welcome Rebecca.
All on my phone tonight because I realized I don't know how to print without Pillsbury. This is two sections from a ridiculously long short story that I wrote a few months ago, and it's tentatively called Paper Boys. It was just like Cameron to go and die young. The more Lydia thought about it, the more it seemed like the only logical outcome. Her younger brother had been everything you imagine when you hear the words golden boy. Sun-swept hair and tan skin, and an easy smile that said his luck was in. He was kind, too, and thoughtful, with a sense of justice like a cartoon prince. It was that part of him Lydia worried about, the part she couldn't see surviving in the grown-up world. 6 years older than him, she would know. Life spoiled people like that. Shoot them up, or twisted them, or turned them into a smiling photo by the side of the road. She got the call at 4 a.m. Her mother couldn't get the words out over wheezing, breathy sobs, and finally handed the phone off to someone. Lydia heard a man clearing his throat on the end of the line. She thought it was her father until she heard the smoker's rasp of Sheriff Hughes. Cam had been out driving with a boy from his school, Lucas. They'd been heading west, at the junction just before Frank Hill's farm. An unexpected burst of freezing rain had turned the roads into a hockey rink. He was so sorry. For some reason, she thought that Cam was missing. He'd driven out of town in bad weather, and they were worried about him. It made sense. She kept asking what search efforts were underway, until Sheriff Hughes had to spell it out for her. The truck had skidded off the side of a bridge and into the river. Both of them had probably died on impact. She said she'd take the first flight home. Probably for the best, the sheriff said. He handed the phone back to Lydia's mother, who had recovered her voice enough to be frantic with questions. How would they plan a funeral? Who would they invite? How long was Lydia staying? Would they still run the obituary if the accident had already appeared in the papers? How could this happen? I don't know, Lydia said. She didn't want to offload her tragic hero theory. It wouldn't make anyone feel better except herself. She tried to answer the rest of the questions as well as she could. But the only one she wanted to ask was what he had been doing on the out-of-town road with a boy the family didn't know. It was the principal's idea to have a joint memorial. He called the day after Lydia got home. Her father was out and her mother was lying down. She nodded into the phone as Principal Houth explained that the students needed an outlet for their grief. The community wanted to come together to mourn. They could still, he added, have a family funeral after the fact. Do we have to go? Lydia asked. She could almost hear Principal Houth tugging on his collar the way he did when he was nervous. Of course you don't have to. We want to give you all the space you need, but I think the community would appreciate your being there, the chance to pay their respects. Lucas Miller's family will be there as well. Okay, good. We were thinking Thursday after school. There was supposed to be a basketball game, but we canceled it, out of respect. Thanks. She wondered who the we was that had put him up to this call. We'll be there. It was an easy compromise to present to her parents. Let someone else plan how to mop up the first outpouring of grief. Then they could pick out a coffin and draft eulogies in their own time. For herself, she was curious. Lydia hadn't been back in her high school gym in nearly 6 years, not since she graduated. Walking in that Thursday, it smelled the same, like sour milk and old rubber and acetone. The floors were light wood that looked yellow under the fluorescent lights, which were caged high above in the raftered ceiling. Everyone looked sweaty and sick in that light. Lydia could already feel the fine hairs sticking to the back of her neck. Principal Houth had set out rows of folding chairs on the basketball court, but most of the students clumped on the bleachers that lined the walls. They shifted in their black jeans and t-shirts. Some had their heads bowed weepily. Most looked confused, like the message had gone around to show up here dressed in black, like a goth pep rally, but they really had no idea what it was for. Her parents sat in the front row of chairs. Her father moved a program off the seat next to him and patted it for her, as if everyone was going to try and snag a spot in the victim's row. In front of them, Cameron's school portrait had been blown up to poster size and placed on an easel next to a tufty bouquet of flowers. The other boy's picture was propped up across the aisle, dark hair and a moody frown. His family sat in front of it. There were a lot of them, 5 kids at least. None of them were wearing black, like they hadn't gotten even that part of the message. She didn't see their father with them, but June, their heavy-lidded older sister, was telling 2 squirming siblings to knock it off. There was a time when Lydia had been good friends with June Miller. They'd been in the same grade all through school until June dropped out and had to repeat junior year. Her father ran an auto shop on the other side of town, and her mother wasn't in the picture, dead or run off, people said. June claimed she took time off school to look after her siblings, but rumor had it she'd been pregnant. Mrs. Price, a wavery voice drew Lydia's attention back to her family. A trio of bright-faced girls was standing in front of them, all with long, silky hair in different shades of caramel. They looked like the sort who would be the pet favorite of some guidance counselor, and sure enough, they'd been trusted to pass around a wicker basket of thin white candles and cardboard sleeves, the kind churches hand out on Christmas Eve. We just wanted to say how sorry we are about Cameron, the one in the middle said, sniffling. He was really great. Her friends drew towards her, closing ranks with sympathetic nods. Lydia wondered if they'd practiced this in the mirror. Were you close? She asked. Yeah, we actually had math together 2 years in a row. Thank you, girls, Lydia's mother said. She gave them a watery smile and they drifted off. Cam had probably never so much as looked at them, but that didn't stop them making themselves the center of the tragedy. Lydia slumped in her seat. Across the aisle, June pushed the candle girl's basket away and said something that sent them scurrying. Principal Houth walked up to the podium and tapped the mic. Silence rolled patchily over the gym like a blackout, until the last teenagers at the top of the bleachers elbowed their talking friends. On cue, someone started passing the flame down the line of candles. Lydia's mother's hands shook as she accepted it. Lydia helped her hold the paper cup steady, then turned to her right to pass it along. But June Miller wasn't there. Lydia saw her standing against the side wall with the littlest sibling, pressed into the shadows of the bleachers. Some people were like that. They preferred to keep to the outside. Some people could get away with it. The fluorescent lights buzzed out overhead so the candles could have their full effect. A camera snapped in the corner. Lydia glanced around at all the ghoulish faces, lit from below like ghost stories at summer camp. Everyone was tinted gold. We'll have 2 minutes of silence for Lucas and Cameron, Jeff announced. The mic feedback dimmed and weeping started in the back of the gym. Lydia saw a newspaper reporter sneaking closer, camera raised, waiting for someone in the front row to start bawling. She gripped her candle so hard she thought the wax would snap. The slam of the side door made everyone jump. Silence shattered. Lydia looked up in time to see June Miller storm out. Section break. It wasn't like Lucas to stay out all night with no warning. He was responsible. People didn't know it to look at him, but he was. It came with being the second oldest of 6 kids. He'd never want June to have something else to worry about, so she'd known, even before the sheriff's deputy knocked on the door that night, that something was wrong. They let her see the body the next day. She hadn't been sure if they would. She figured they were just too surprised to refuse the request. She didn't realize until later that they probably would have called her in anyway to identify him. She hadn't let any of the younger kids come with her. She didn't trust them not to knock over someone's urn or break the handle of the $6,000 coffin. She hated funeral homes, this one especially. It was a flat, beige building like a converted dentist's office. Upstairs was a showroom with 2 chapels, all polished wood and flouncy fabrics. Who decided that mourners went in so much for heavy drapes? It smelled like rotting flowers. Mr. Park made his assistant Garrett lead her down there. She and Garrett had gone to high school together, overlapped by a year or 2. He was still needle-thin and anemic, with a shock of white hair. One of her friends had gone out with him once and said he was a good kisser, but she couldn't stand taking it any farther. Cold hands. There was no sentimental drapery downstairs. Everything was sterile and glaring. White tile flooring ran all the way up the walls. 2 gleaming metal tables sat in the middle of it beside open drains. There was a lumpy sheet on each table, like children hiding under their covers. Amazing how a body never looked like anything but a body. She tried to guess which one was Lucas and which was Cameron in the minute before Garrett pulled one of the sheets back. She was surprised at bruises. She'd had this idea that when you died instantly, your whole body stopped. Blood didn't keep pooling under the skin, but there it was, a big purple one pluming across the center of Lucas's forehead, so dark it was almost black. He hid his face on the dash, Garrett said. Poor kid. It would have knocked him out, though. So he didn't feel it? Drowning? He shook his head. Between that and the cold water, no. He didn't feel a thing. Okay. You're lucky, he said. The other kid, it looks like he might have been conscious for a minute or two after they crashed, tried to get out. We didn't tell his family that, of course. June glanced over at the other table he was pointing at, Cameron's. She'd never believed his friendship with Lucas was a good thing. Cameron was the kind of good-looking and popular that could make you into a dick. All blonde hair and teeth. News anchor material. Guys who looked like that and came from families like his didn't need to bother treating people well. They'd get what they wanted anyway. But when she brought it up with Lucas, he'd insisted Cameron wasn't like that. What is he like then, she asked. He's good. Next reader is Sandra del Rio Madrigal is a daughter of Mexican immigrants and a Chicana poet who is a current creative writing MFA candidate for poetry at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. Originally from Salt Lake City, Utah, Sandra received her Bachelor of Arts in English, Ethnic Studies, and Latin American Studies at the University of Utah. Her work investigates topics like the uncanny, the eerie, Latinidad, migration, borders, politics, and transnational feminisms. Sandra's poetry and short stories have appeared in journals and anthologies like Frontiers, Journal of Women's Studies, Migratory Monsters, Lake Words Volume 2, and Torrey House Press's In the Garden, Community Storytelling on Food, Ecology, and Place. Let's give it up for Sandra.
Oh my gosh, hi, it's nice to see everyone, and it's so cool that I get to read with some of my favorite writers in the program, so thanks so much, Rebecca, for doing all of this and organizing and everything. Okay, I'm going to try my hardest not to speak a million words a minute, because I tend to, so in order to slow myself down, I'm going to try and start with a poem in Spanish and try my hardest to be slow. Okay. Hijas, palabras redactadas de los hijos de Maliche de Octavio Paz. La muerte todavía vive. La mujer vive también en muerte, también en el corazón del mundo, y ama como poeta a sí misma. La mujer nota creación, escoge, encarna, transforma, intenta toda revolución sin ausencia abstracta, no esconde la vida, y quiere, y también es igual a el arte como cuerpo, quiere resolver nuestros rasgos, a pesar de las diferencias. Ser gesto sola encuentra a una forma desconocida. La mexicana histórica, aunque ellas para manifestarse imaginan fantasmas de nosotras. La voz tiene abierta para nosotras. Estamos en toda vida. Daughters, language redacted from Sons of Malinche by Octavio Paz. Death still lives. The woman lives still in death, also in the heart of the world, and loves like a poet. The woman as herself notes creation, chooses, embodies, transforms, attempts all revolution without absence, abstract doesn't hide life, and wants, and also like art, like body, wants to resolve our roots despite the differences. To be gesture alone, she finds an unknown figure, La Mexicana Histórica, though they, to manifest, imagine ghosts of us. Her voice she has opened for us, we are in all life. Notes on Bernal Diaz and the Conquest, who Bernal Diaz is a soldier from the Spanish conquest of Mexico. After Mass, the soldiers attacked. After Mass, the soldiers attacked. After Mass, the soldiers attacked. God granted victory and looked upon the rich lands. 20 women were gifted to Cortés, some daughters of caciques, the first Christians. Altars of God's mother they worshipped. Cortés and his men set fire to the idols, for they deemed the Mexicans a wicked worship, bartered Our Lady for handsome, finely adorned Mexica women. They removed the earth and dug for virgins. They found gold placating the palace chambers. And thus began the conquest, for we now had wine and wafers. Raza. Ra-sa, noun, an assemblage of follicles, false cultural revelations on nature, miscegenation of purity, an ample dealing of nobility, the milk that drips still from our lips, a biological calculation, a pope's perversity, a condemning of the horrors in my ovaries, a proximity to Jesus, a diasporic context, limpieza, a tongue to whiteness, a communion, a gathering of fists in the sky, a damning of all biological renderings, because diaspora can be ugly sometimes, an account of kind, type, nature, species, an austere belief in mestizaje, a defect in the weave, a malicious performance of nationalism, the pleasure in one's enclosures, the gold chain crossed against itself, humanity rendered through trees and rocks and hills, the horrors that roll through the fat and turns over one's dinner, a spiritual San Diego, abandoned mothers and fathers and grandfathers and grandmothers, forsaken for better shores, the blade that slices the tongue in half, progeny as singular, the unwavering and false belief in homogeny, a keen look at America, the flesh that spills from one's hands, the uncovering of the ancestors right beneath the skin, a cursory glance towards the past, everything ugly in us laid out ahead, asking to be held. Repository. X as inheritance. Just as my mother spoons her stew and sips from the tip, I spill my own into the mouth. We lick our lips, forage for calabaza, papa, work our evening into floods. There is heat everywhere. We at the taste of the zanahoria, el tomate. She takes her stew warmer than I. I take it just enough, stop before I'm full. She tolerates the spice and seeds much more than me. She's wrong to be so strong. I'd bury her in me if I could. X as hunt. Ripe the danger, soft the grind. She sifts memories as she speaks, the homes translucent as she's lived, worked, and raised herself out of. She remembers cabinets, their classic dark brown colors, the porcelain figures resting on every fissure and ledge. She remembers the birds singing the hallway heavy. She remembers it all much bigger, much wider. X as border. An absence crosses me, sieves me, collects me into pus, just as the women we keep close ooze from the deepest of pores. We wish to cradle the mire. Amarres para el amor. You lived Catholic, barely believed, but ate the crackers all the same, lined the mantle with candles, even hid a few behind hats in the closet. Because when would anyone ever look behind such clutter and find the saintless cylinder stamped in its wax gold emblem? If ever found, who would recognize the gilded custom but you? How would your daughters feel its warmth without your hands to guide them into its flames? Recuerde la tierra, del panteón, de las rosas, tu perfume mezclado entre cera debajo de la cama. You still recoil at the city's gall. Tijuana es un pueblo, one granddaughter exclaims, but you know, in truth, el pueblo, the rural curse that is tradition masked by time, its changing features, an evolution you believe never really reached anyone. Nadie sabe de la niña enterrada debajo del suelo. Solo Dios castiga y regala a sus hijas. The city girls post themselves up on pillars, market their magic beyond church walls. When did the saints allow for this? The priests pitching up their basements for sacrifices made in vain, made holy, moorings made public. You can't believe it. But secrets always shown for spectacle. We palm each other for comprehension's sake. What happens when one reads the scars along the palm? To know the palm, to say, you will have 3 beautiful babies, the first a girl. It's to hold me in entirety, in the way no one has ever held me so close, seen me so clear across the cigarette smoke. Even her eyes, as she sees my days lay plastered beneath the wrinkles, scrawled across the palms, line, fold, X, all a gesture towards genealogical lies, she says, a meme of magic once drawn from mothered bodies. The mouth is a locust. The mouth is the mind. The mouth is an entrance. The mouth is a reading. The mouth is a service. The mouth is an exile. The mouth is possession, is control. The mouth is an index finger. The mouth is a difficult history. The mouth is an ending. The mouth is a wolf. The mouth is a moon. The mouth is an anthropophagic gesture. The mouth is overpopulated. The mouth is an antagonist. The mouth is a skeleton. The mouth is a sublime consciousness. The mouth is a mile. The mouth is a human nakedness. The mouth is remotely interesting. The mouth is reason, is shape. The mouth is denotative meaning. The mouth is Brasilia. The mouth is a mammal. The mouth is a canopy. The mouth is a cunt. The mouth is a paradise. The mouth is an overdeveloped nation. The mouth is pornography. The mouth is a lens. The mouth is an understanding. The mouth is a grievance, is a sickness. The mouth is a gaping impasse. The mouth is an obstruction. The mouth is a miracle. The mouth is a cosmological argument. The mouth is a paper tiger. The self folds after Steniogaten. The self folds in time, in tune to words sung, the words you've given me, like frond and monster and traipse or sagacity and oracular. The heart codes itself on the language I require, on the noise made between bodies and faces, the hymns and hums that thrum along the hours, likening peaches to jaguars. Fast breaks in the day cross me against my chest. Breath holds more than me. Speaking is an exercise of intuition. Your thoughts are bred, warm and firm and baked, as mine fill you. With knowing, our bellies swell with welts of laughter at each other's sounds. I have language with my tongue. I have language with my mother. I have language with my dinner. All my language is a labor, is the interstice between skin and that which endures unseen. Okay, last one, folks. Okay, chicas. In obliteration, the old gods retreated into their mortal selves. Huatlicu found solace in serpents, in Coat, and Cuatlaxope in the mothers whose children's deaths are eternal cries, lanterns who carry us in the night. In the revolution, the virgins salted the great hall of the archives. They took their forms as naked, sexless mothers in masses. The grapes arched over a sister's breast. A nation true could hold its daughters' clothes, sheathed ghosts enclosed in the fibers, and the dyes, but doesn't. In abundance, we seduced, like scythes, like snakes, like a god in their glory. Like Chicomecoat, we appeased ourselves in the harvest of flowers from hair. There is dance in the way we mourn. There is song in the way we bear life in throngs. Out the womb, my mother brought me to her breast and whispered secrets only I could hear, gifted me all the innumerable, all things sacred outbreeding lesser gestures. Thank you.
Alright, our next reader is Olivia Wood. Olivia Wood is a writer from Los Angeles.
Say less. I think that was my intro last year.
Challenging the poets on economy of language.
Okay, I'm going to read the beginning of a new short story. Working title is Well, She Isn't. And it's about Las Vegas. Ricky couldn't tell if the showgirl was actually a showgirl or if she just had on a ridiculous outfit. She was standing next to a potted palm tree on the sidewalk, wearing a black bra, black hot pants, knee-high black leather boots, and an oversized suit jacket covered in large silver sequins. Her eyes were obscured by her wig, which was platinum blonde and styled into a frazzled bob, with chunky bangs that hung over her face like blinders. She had one hand shoved deep into the pocket of her bedazzled jacket, holding it tight against her body, as if to ward off the cold. It was cold that weekend in Vegas. The wind whipped mercilessly down the strip, causing tourists and hustlers and street performers to fold into themselves, draw their clothing closer with looks of betrayal on their faces at the desert's misbehavior. The first stop Ricky had made after he checked into the Best Western and dropped off his bag in his room was a Walgreens, where he picked up some hand warmers and a $2 beanie. He figured he was going to be spending a lot of time outdoors on this trip. It would do well to be prepared. Now, watching the showgirl shiver in her sequin jacket, he felt in his pocket for the hand warmer. How long had she been out here like this? She didn't seem to be working like the other showgirls and promoters on the strip. She wasn't offering to take raunchy photos with passersby or handing out cards advertising the champagne room at a strip club. Her pose didn't invite strangers to come up and talk to her. The only thing that set her apart from any other civilian, really, was her outfit. The skimpy underthings, the wig, the jacket. Maybe she was headed to a party, but her plans got canceled. Maybe she was the victim of a prank. Maybe, like Ricky, she was looking for someone. Ricky approached the showgirl, holding out his hand warmer. "Hey," he said, "you look like you might need this." The showgirl startled a little. The sequins on her jacket clinked. Ricky could see now that they were not regular thin plastic sequins, but individual discs of metal, like faceless coins. The showgirl drew a hand out of her pocket and took the hand warmer warily, like she wasn't sure what it was. Then, after giving it a tentative squeeze, she seemed to relax. "Thanks," she said, tucking the hand warmer into her pocket. "That's very kind." Her voice had a strange muffled quality, as if there was fabric over her mouth. "I didn't know it could get this cold here," said Ricky. "It's how it works in the desert," said the showgirl. "The sun beats down all day, but the land is so barren that there's nothing to hold on to the heat. It all dissipates as soon as it gets dark." The sun was indeed starting to set, throwing an eerie pink glow onto the clouds that had loomed in the sky all day. Pretty soon the strip would be thronged with people, and Ricky would have to get back to his search. "You look a little young for Vegas," the showgirl said. Ricky still couldn't see her eyes, but he could tell she was sizing him up. "Where's your mom and dad?" "I'm 20 next week," he said, trying not to sound indignant. "I thought 21 was the Vegas birthday. I'm not here to party." "Too bad. Well, happy birthday anyway." The showgirl patted her pockets. "Hey, you got a lighter?" Ricky shook his head. The showgirl sucked her teeth. "Damn it. Okay, come with me." She turned and started down the sidewalk, her heels clomping over the ground like hooves. Ricky jogged to catch up with her. "Wait, why am I coming with you?" he asked. "Because you're a nice kid and you need someone to show you around," she said, obviously. "I told you I'm not here to party. I have, like, a goal." "Oh yeah? I'm trying to find someone." "Who?" "My dad." The showgirl stopped on the sidewalk and turned toward Ricky. "Oh, buddy," she said. "He's never coming home." "No, it's not like that. When's the last time you saw him?" 2 months ago." The showgirl tilted her head sympathetically. "Did your mom send you to look for him?" "My mom doesn't know I'm here," Ricky mumbled, looking at his feet. "She doesn't give a shit about him anymore." "Smart woman. Follow her lead." The showgirl wheeled around and began clomping down the street again. Her coin jacket jingled with each step. "Wait," said Ricky, once again scrambling to catch up with the showgirl, who had a vexingly quick stride. "Maybe, could you help me?" The showgirl laughed harshly, like she was clearing it from her throat. "How?" "You said you'd show me around. There's this one casino that my dad likes to go to, or he said he went there once or something, but I can't find it, and even if I did, they wouldn't let me in because, you're a child," the showgirl interjected. "Whatever, whatever. Point is, you could help me find this place, and help me get in, or go in and look for my dad. Maybe I can pay you, I have money. I don't need your money." "That's okay," said Ricky, who was starting to feel desperate. "I can, code. I'm in school for computer science. I don't know, maybe you need, a website, or lessons, or what's the place called?" "What?" "The casino your dad might be at." "Oh, hang on." Ricky got his phone out and scrolled through the note he titled Dad Info. The Samantha?" Again, the showgirl stopped walking. This time, though, she didn't turn towards Ricky. She just stood there, in the middle of the sidewalk, hands in the pockets of her jacket, looking at nothing. After a few moments, she began to laugh, low and close-mouthed. "Yeah," she said. "No wonder you're having trouble finding that place. So you know where it is? Hey, listen." Abruptly, the showgirl reached over and took hold of Ricky's shoulder. Ricky was startled at how warm her hand was, until he remembered how this whole interaction had begun. "I don't mean to be rude, but I really do think you should make like your mom and try to stop giving a shit about your dad. If he's at the Samantha, and no guarantee that he is, but if he's there, it's not in your best interest to go looking for him." Ricky got the odd sense that the showgirl had given this advice to other people many times before. He shook her hand off his shoulder and folded his arms. "I'm not leaving you alone until you tell me where the Samantha is," he said. The showgirl smirked. "Who says I know where it is?" "Obviously you do," Ricky bluffed. "So I'm just gonna follow you around until you tell me." "Police, help," the showgirl said flatly. "Help me. This teenage delinquent is stalking me. Someone call the police." Ricky was outmatched. He felt a humiliating lump rise in his throat. "Please," he said. "I've been here for 4 days, and this is the closest I've gotten. If I don't find my dad, I'll..." The truth was, Ricky didn't know what he'd do if he didn't find his dad. He hadn't allowed himself to consider that possibility. Now, faced with one singular lead that had appeared like a miracle, only to be ripped away just as suddenly, he felt like perhaps he would simply cease to exist. The notion was melodramatic and juvenile, he knew as he thought it, but still, he could not comprehend a life as the kind of son whose father chooses to abandon him. There was no way to communicate any of this to the showgirl, who, Ricky noticed for the first time, was significantly taller than him. This wasn't that surprising. Lots of women were taller than Ricky. "Please," he said again, staring down at the black pockmarks of gum on the sidewalk so the showgirl wouldn't see the tears in his eyes. The showgirl sighed from deep in the back of the throat. "Pathetic," she said, but Ricky didn't think she was talking to him. At least he hoped she wasn't. Then she said, "Fine, I'll take you to the Samantha. Me and my soft fucking heart, I tell you what." Ricky looked up. The showgirl smiled at him a bit sadly. "Thank you," Ricky said. "Seriously, thank you so much." "Yeah, we'll see about that," she said. "Hey, don't cry. You'll get puffy, and then you'll look even more like a kid." Ricky swiped at his eyes and nose with his sweatshirt sleeve. "I'm good. Let's go." "Okay, we're not headed to the Samantha immediately, all right? I got some errands to run, and this whole thing will go a lot smoother if you stick with me and do exactly what I say." The showgirl turned and started off down the street again with Ricky by her side. "There's a guy I gotta talk to, see if I can convince him to drive us out there. Christ, he's gonna be pissed. Just stay next to me and don't run your mouth, okay?" "Absolutely," said Ricky. "You're the boss." "Fucking right, I'm the boss," the showgirl muttered. "Can't believe I'm doing this. I was just gonna sneak you into Harrah's and get my buddy who tends bar to fix you a virgin pina colada." I think I'll stop there. Thank you all.
Alright, our final reader of the night is Isabel Zacharias. Isabel is a writer, musician, and educator with home bases in the Midwest and Pacific Northwest. Her poetry and nonfiction have been published by the Academy of American Poets, Pom Pom Lit, NPR Music, Oregon Quarterly, and others. She's currently a Walter Nathan Fellow at the University of Minnesota's Creative Writing MFA program, where she received the James Wright Prize in Poetry. Her full band music project is called Baby Tube. Let's give it up for Isabel.
Hello, what an amazing night of work this has already been. I'm addicted to these prose pieces and want to read them in entirety. And I really miss having class with Sandra and reading her poems. Wow, so good. I'm going to read some poems and a little bit of nonfiction prose. This first one is called September. I remember what you said about being too old to listen to such sad music, but neither of us can stop, and I don't want to. I hear so many fake-outs, second and 100th chances at all living. I hear someone who said okay fine and let themselves fail. Hear a season changing. I hear everything together, fall fixing itself to the skyline. I remember I had just come home from place. It was 5 or 6 months into me sometimes not remembering who or where I was, wiggling my fingers in the mirror. Everyone kept saying how normal I seemed, a flat congratulation floating in the space between us. I had driven the 2 hours alone and decided to start saying out loud what I needed to hear. Eventually the talking became singing. I turned on the song we had always said we'd play at our wedding, and I cried, and I shouldn't have been driving. And I said from myself to myself, I am so, so scared. I know you're scared. We are both here, so scared. I realized then it's a sad song if you listen to the lyrics, but it's still perfect for us. By the time I pulled up to the field, I was swollen with salt. You held the side of my face and pulled me close and said, "You made it." All the lawn chairs tilted back against the setting sun. The crowd had crowded early despite the inexactitude, no one ever really knowing when each year this all will happen. We cracked open Heinekens and peanuts, and the birds came slowly at first. 5 or 6 circled into the chimney before us. That's probably it, we thought, blinking in the light. Then an opening, a next thing, somehow and against all odds, though it happens every year, though we were here to see it, a cloud of birds shicking across, hundreds, thousands, looping back against themselves and down, the sound of air disturbed surrounding us, to where it's safe, to where they know at last they can rest for the night. This is called Muse. I know girls like you, a wisp tacked onto a switchblade, and men like your boyfriend, attenuated, tan. You, him, not him, you, are a threat. Your website is down. I guess you're practicing your practice. I really liked you when I first saw your totally unreasonable shoes. Right then I knew I had to be invited. Your long soft lines, your falling hair. Though 2 of you could fit inside my body, I stopped myself from asking to be swallowed. I thought on a walk of an unassuming way to relate your work to blank. But then I'd give away that I had followed first, so I shut it. Already misspoke when I said I liked you, but I don't know how. I feel careful and underemployed. What I could do for you is I don't know what. What part of I don't belong here don't I understand? I asked you to photograph me, and instead, I photographed you through a window. You were lifting a 2x4. It cut across the sky. There are all these things I think I know about the kind of girl you are. Still, I Google the Yale School of Art. Oh, I think, give me a break. I check again to see if you ever got my message. In my portrait, I will wear my linen dress, my silver necklace. In it, I look exactly my age. In it, you will have looked at me closely, my body, even just the once. This is a very new poem. Working title is Selfie. It's about the internet. Great. Cool. You're all familiar with it.
Wait, what?
Yeah, this crazy thing. Today, on my personal internet, there was a smoothie, a purse, and a softie, thumbing a bio, aware of the glitching, untucking a shirt with a shot in the mirror. All that I see sometimes is a tooth, flashing across our infinite welcome. Don't think I don't know who's welcome up here in the attic of the internet, where I dig for my missing tooth, since I hate being called a softie, or a fragile glass thing like a mirror, the one I see flash from outside, a glitching, and post I am radically anti-glitching. In our movement, everyone's welcome. We spit and we polish the mirror. If we can be loving and we are the internet, I touch into the ache with softy fingers, feeling in the morning for my tooth, fallen out in the dream of my many-toothed creature we all start to have in the glitching. I admit in this way that I make myself softy. I wish for, then wish to stop wishing for welcome. There is nothing more to say about the internet, it often says hotly to itself in the mirror. I once had a compact mirror I'd take out before showing you a tooth. You were bigger than all the internet, our first kiss fractaled with glitching, sun on the marmalade lake whose welcome waves made your voice go all softy. It was all for you who saw a softie when you caught me in a corner of your mirror. And wasn't it all to make you welcome in the same sharp room as my tooth? Aren't the fissures of time just a glitching when I see you laid out open on the internet? The good softy internet which brought you to me glitching back from the two-way mirror of the past, and the past said, welcome, and I showed it my tooth. That poem is a sestina, which is a fun exercise if you're a poet and you want to write in a crazy form, where you pick 6 words and kind of alternate them to end each line with. That didn't make a lot of sense. We can talk later. This next poem is in response to, you really probably can't see this at all, this Hans Richter painting called Les Yeux sur le plat, the eyes on the plate. And it's kind of meant to be able to be read different ways. So I'm going to kind of read it like across like this, and then I'll read the columns sequentially. I'm still working on this. The goal is to be able to read it diagonally, like however you want. I mean, yeah. With relative sense-making results, but that's not the point. That's not why we're doing poetry, to make sense. So here's like a preface. This art is the words give up, one text, send it pressing, humble, phone, human, the perfect, les yeux, to gulp, across, breaking, one color, at the Kunsthaus, oh, you know, one blue, you could, eyes on, a blankness of human, very slowly recover this sense of must, decide instead, around, painting is Richter, right? Not try to do magic, one stroke of blue, opening, thumb swipe, shared with you. Do we ever flash after another figure, its movement, see each across what surface, blue, always, other, art is looking. These are the columns. This art is humble to gulp. Oh, you know, of human must not try, thumb swipe after another surface. The words phone across one blue, very slowly, decide instead to do magic, shared figure, give up human breaking. You could recover around one stroke with you, its movement, always. One text, the perfect one color, eyes on, this painting is of blue. Do we ever see each other, send it pressing, les yeux at the Kunsthaus, a blankness, a sense of Richter, right? Opening, flash, across what art is looking. So I'll just do those 2 for now. Let's see. Okay. I'm working on some prose for the first time in my life. It's been really exciting. And I'm kind of putting together some lyric essay memoir kind of stuff about like intimacy in the way that it's like mediated by the internet and just by like the unreliability of memory. So I'm writing about a childhood friend of mine who passed away, and also about my current partner, and kind of like putting those things up against each other. So here's just a short excerpt from that project. My iPhone loves to remind me. It moves me into the memory. Claire's shuddering curls tucked under a blue felt blanket, cast in that ugly whitish 2010s camera feel. A pimple buds on her cheek as she sleeps. My angle from above is unflattering. I've never chosen the right moments to capture, to keep. I return from friends' weddings and family reunions with cross-eyed selfies and pictures of the sky that could have been taken anywhere. So this is what I have. Claire in my room in Chicago in 2015, between a lengthy video of a band I'm now embarrassed to have loved and a coffee shop's Wi-Fi password. Maybe my phone has noticed that when it shows me this photo of her, I look at it for a long time. Maybe that's why it keeps giving it back to me. Hugh and I pass a favorite neighborhood bar in the car. I say, we haven't been there for a while. He says, you say that every time we pass that place. I laugh and bruise, becoming a little bit more what I'd never believed I could be. We get to the restaurant we're going to, and I dig through my purse at the door, holding up the line. Hugh knows what this means. Maybe we should just eat at home, he says. It's already late. On the drive back, I rest my hand on his thigh, a connection point in lieu of words, since I've already apologized twice. Go in and grab it, he says when we pull up to the house. Thought you didn't want to go back out. And he smiles. We're already out. The night breezing in from the open window and my wallet, cold from the coffee table. Smooth and small in my hands like a worry stone. A kiss on the head and a second goodbye to our cat as I leave. We go back the way we came. We pass the same bar. We haven't been there for a while, I say. The kind of crying that ends with me looking at myself in the mirror. The kind of mirror that only shows a sliver of my face. The kind in the car. The song Claire might have been listening to. The part of the story no one asked about. Her mom the only person who would know. The reason underneath the reasons. My family far away. My boss's bad dog wagging finger. My age and my savings moving quietly in opposite directions. The ambient smell of our friend Daniel's teenage cologne on a college campus. The smile she broke into when he asked me to prom. The kind that both closed off and granted access to her thoughts. The nearing of a 10-year anniversary. The greediness I feel in holding on. The message she sent me on Tumblr in 2011. I have literally never in the entire time I've known you noticed a flaw in your skin. The exact point of breakage, of allowance, to not just cry but heave, more like coughing, more like retching. I still miss you. On our first date, Hugh and I were surrounded on all sides by blooming roses. They'd opened late that year, summer sharpening into fall. His sweeping hair and the 12-pack of Miller Lite he carried had stood in relief against their spangled colors. I'd startled, made a face. I brought the same beer, same number. I guess now we have to drink 24 beers, he'd said. When we finally left, the sun had been down for hours. We had fallen in love in the dark. Now he's waking me up with a ruby-dotted ring, and away slips the thought of myself in the future, somebody down on one knee. It's already crossed into the past. I grieve the glowing people in that vision, so different from me and from him. So different, in fact, I have nothing to say to them. To him, though, to him I say yes. And that's my reading.
Thank you guys so much for coming out, and thank you to all of our readers. Let's give it up one more time. We will be hosting this again at least 3 times next semester, so stay posted for what those dates are going to be. Yeah, please buy some books and stay around. Thank you, Quinn.
Are you going to read the book on the Tuesday? I read a couple chapters. Very cool. Have you read it? Yeah, I like it. You like it so far? Yeah. I think like the pulp of like, yeah, it's a little, yeah, really interesting reading about like Tuesday. Yeah, I don't know, I like that kind of context that I feel it helps.